let's get sagey. Hello, my name is Bradley Scott with Wildfire and Earth, Reiki, Shamanism, and Energy Healing. Today, we're going to be talking about the art of smudging or using sage to clear and cleanse a space. As above, so below. As within, so without. Ooh, we got some color changing going on. Sage normally comes in bundles like this. This is traditional white sage. And the first thing I wanted to talk about before we really get into what sage is and how to use it is, number one, fire safety. Always use a fire safe container. And if you are underage, please be sure to use sage with an adult present and with adult supervision, which means you have to ask your parents before you can go burning some sage. One thing that's important to remember, do not put sage out in water. Some people use water to put sage out, and that's actually bad to do because unless you actually hang it out to dry in a very good environment that doesn't have any mildew or mold or anything like that, your sage is going to get moldy and mildewed. And when you burn it, that can cause some undesirable effects. I like to use sand or even the container that it is in. Blowing sage out usually doesn't work, so you can take the container and you can just kind of grind the sage, and you'll know the sage goes out whenever it stops smoking. So that's important to remember. What does sage do? Well, sage is similar to chlorine in a pool. Sage, actually, whenever you burn it, releases molecules into the air that attach to dander, carcinogens, dust, bacteria, viruses, things like that, and actually pulls it all the way down to the bottom. So sage actually cleans the air scientifically. I'll link some studies below so that you guys can see what sage does scientifically. But mainly in this video, we're going to be talking about what sage does magically. Sage is a high vibration herb. So when you burn sage, particularly white sage, the traditional method, and use it in smudging, to cleanse the area of a room or a space, you are actually raising the energetic vibration of that space due to the smoke in the sage. Now you can use this with visualization, or you can just burn the sage on its own and know that it's doing what it should do, because many people have done this in the past and this has been built up so that sage is just known as the room cleanser and something to use to raise vibrations in the room. It removes low vibrational energy. So that means negativity, demons, other entities, spirits, things like that that are bothering you or may counteract what you're trying to do for the day or what you're trying to do in your work, whether you're healing or whether you're just creating. You want to get those negative energies out. It's kind of like cleaning the room before you do something. A lot of us live in clutter and our houses are in disarray. Sage is one of those additional things that can kind of help you clean your environment so that you start with a clean slate and there's no energy kind of manipulating what you're trying to do. So sage goes in there and raises that vibration so that you can start with a clean slate and everything is good to do. So one thing to keep in mind is that there are different bundles of sage available on the market right now. There's white sage, there's blue sage. You can get sage mixed with lavender, you can get sage mixed with sweetgrass, you can get sage mixed with palo santo, etc., etc. There's so many that you can use. I personally recommend using bundles of white sage or blue sage, and sage bundles of sage and sweetgrass, which is traditional in the Native American culture, or you can do sage and palo santo, which is traditional to Mexican brujeria or santeria. So those are all very cleansing. Be sure that if you buy a bundle that has, say, lavender or cedar or tobacco or any other herbs in there, that you research the herb. because sage alone by itself is an exorcising herb. What that means, it is expelling negative energy. Other herbs, when burned, evoke or invoke energetic spirits or entities, and so you can kind of have a dual effect. Now, this is where it gets into the fear-mongering part. In the spiritual community, they say, be careful burning sage, you might make things worse. And yes, in a sense, that is the case. But that happens extremely rarely. And generally, if you will know already if you have a very bad negative spirit in your space or in your home. You will be experiencing poltergeist activity, etc., etc., etc. You know all about the negative energies. So if you get a bad feeling that you shouldn't sage or something like that, don't. Talk to a friend or have a professional come and do it for you. You can speak to a priest, you can speak to a shaman, or you can have another energy healer come and work with you and teach you how to do this so that you feel comfortable. When you sage, how do you do it? The number one thing to remember when you're saging is not to think of negativity and fear. The universe operates on two frequencies, fear and love. So if you're operating out of fear, you are going to magnify the fear energetically. So let go of all of those negative entities, let go of all those negative feelings, and possibly even sage yourself before you sage the environment. So you are going in there kind of like wearing a clean suit, or you're not contaminated with any other energies before you start the saging. And that will help you release some of that fear so that you come in and you operate in love. Now, the best thing to do is light your sage, which we're gonna do right now. I'm gonna try and do this on camera because it's kind of hard to do. But you light your sage and you wait until you have a pretty good flame and it's smoking, okay? I like to use it in my hand. Now, some people don't like to do that because you can get ashes and things falling. So that's where we're going to put it into the fire safe container. And look, it continues to sage. Now, continues to smoke. That's the right word. So you can do traditional smudging with either your hand, or you can use a feather bundle to actually traditionally smudge. Now, when you are smudging a room or an area, you generally want to start in the northern quarter or the eastern quarter. I prefer to start in the eastern quarter because I am a fire sign. Now, if you're an earth sign or an air sign, you might want to start somewhere else. Just start wherever it feels comfortable for you. And what you do is you start saging, and as you're saging, visualize negativity being dispelled and the whole room being filled up with this smoke is filling it up with light, okay? So that's what you're doing. You're filling the energy up with light. You're raising the vibration of the room. If you start in the eastern quadrant, work your way around to the south, to the west, to the north, and back to the east. Work in a circle, kind of spiraling. You can start in the center and work outward, or you can start from the out and work inward. Paying particular attention to corners, closets, windows, mirrors, and even sinks and toilets. So any area that could be considered a portal for an energy or a spirit, you want to sage that area, okay? And I love that it's burning because usually it doesn't burn. If you have issues burning your sage, don't add lighter fluid or anything like that to it. You're gonna burn the house down. So just be very careful. Light it gently. Try different things besides using a lighter. Use a match. You can light it over a flame. You can light it using other incenses. Try different ways to light your sage that work for you. Find a specific way that works just for you. So we're gonna put this in my hair now. Ooh, yeah, that looks nice. All right, so when you're saging, the most important thing to remember is not that you are trying to combat the forces of darkness. This isn't a battle between light and dark. This is basically like setting up a security system in your home. You are not conjuring thieves. You're not conjuring people to break into your home whenever you set up a security system. You are just being prepared. Sage is one of those preparations when you're doing energetic, magical, or spiritual or healing work. I love the smell of sage because it instantly raises my vibration and instantly lets me know that I'm going to be doing something important. It acts as kind of a Pavlov's dog association for me now because I've been using it for so many years in healing and cleansing people. You can use sage in several different ways. You don't have to just use it to cleanse a space. You can use sage to cleanse an object. Say you got something from the Goodwill or Salvation Army and there may be energies attached to it, sage that item so that it is clean and clear before you wash it and physically cleanse it, okay? So we're operating on different levels here. There's the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual, right? Sage cleanses all the way up through all three levels. It physically cleanses the object or space, it emotionally cleanses the object or space, and it spiritually cleanses the object or space. On top of your visualization and actually physically cleaning the object or the space, you are good to go. That object is cleared of any energetic attachments prior to you getting it, or even if you've had a fight in a particular room and there's a lot of negative energy, or if your child is suffering from nightmares or night terrors, or if there's just not a good vibe in a room, you can sage it and actually take control of your environment, because that feeling, those vibes are all about trying to create fear within us. What you do by saging is you release that control, outside control, and you internally take control, and you say, I am not going to let this control me. I am going to control how I feel in this room. So you are setting that intention that I am sovereign. I am the ruler of this home and this space, and this is mine. Okay? If you're working in the massage industry, or if you're a healer yourself, or if you're a psychic, or if you do paranormal investigations, you always want to sage the room, because you don't know what energies were there before you, especially if you're sharing a room with other workers, or if you're in a place where there's constant traffic. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. And we humans, by not dealing with our own internal emotional stuff, send out energetic vibrations all the time. Not all of those are positive. Not all of those are high vibes. Sometimes we operate in negativity. Sometimes we operate in depression. Sometimes we operate in anxiety. And sometimes we operate in anger and fear. So sage is a great way to erase that residue of energy that is still existing in the room long after events happen. So you sage the room, okay? A lot of traditions also invoke deity whenever you're doing this. If you are an atheist or agnostic and you don't believe in a higher power, you can definitely believe in the energetic properties and scientific properties that sage bring to the table. If you do believe in energy and deity and a higher power, you can actually pray to that higher power and deity. You can ask Father Sky and Mother Earth to join you in this space right now and help you cleanse the area if you don't feel comfortable doing it. Now, let's get to some of the little trickier nuances of saging. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes there are bad negative energies that you don't want to sage around. It will make them more upset. 99 times out of 100, this is not the case. You are not going to find an entity that is trying to physically harm you or physically harm you or your family. What can actually happen is you may have a human disembodied spirit, a nature spirit, or something else like that, that this type of cleansing, it's their space too. We share space with things that we don't quite comprehend or understand scientifically or empirically. It can't be proven yet. So science hasn't caught up to the fact that there are other dimensions and things that coexist within our realm of reality, okay? So when you sage, sometimes that can rub these entities wrong. What do you do in that type of situation? Number one, do not get scared. That's the easiest thing to do. Don't freak out and just accept, oops, I am sorry, I offended you. Apologize and own up to it. Then the best thing to do is either have a partner come in and help you. You can talk to your pastor, you can talk to your priest, you can talk to another shaman, you can talk to an energetic healer, you can call me, you can do whatever you like that helps you feel like you have a team around you and that you're not alone in this experience, okay? Now, the best thing to do is not give in to fear. The next thing to do is figure out what is going on. So do some research and try and find out what this entity is, where it's coming from, what it could be, and how to deal with it. Some entities have specific ways that they need to be dealt with, okay? Certain ones listen to certain things because that is what they have traditionally been exercised with, all right? Does that make any sense? I hope that everybody understands that. If not, you can ask questions down below. This is very, very rare, very rare. And like I said before, if this experience is going to happen to you, 99 times out of 100, you already know that there is a hugely negative entity working against you or working around your area prior to saging. So you're going to know that it's going to ruffle its feathers. And 9 times out of 10, this helps you disconnect from that energy and just keep doing it, because yes, it is going to act out, but think of it as a toddler throwing a temper tantrum. It is a lower vibration, so therefore it acts like a child, and it's selfish and it wants that space for itself. This is now your space and you need to say so and show so. Just having ownership of your space is the most important thing you can do energetically for yourself and for this entity. You have to let it know, this is my space. You can go where you need to go, but this space right here, this moment, this time is mine. And that's easy. That's all you have to do. It's just about ownership. Now, if things happen beyond that, you need to call someone and talk to people and find out what is going on. And it would be amazing, because I have heard people this happening to, but I've never actually met anyone. Does that make any sense? It's all hearsay. So a lot of this is fear mongering. A lot of this is people trying to make a quick buck off of other people walking into the home and saying, oh, you have a haunting and you've got to do this, this, and this, or oh, it's gonna ruin your life. That is not true. 9 times out of 10, that isn't the case at all. It's just negative energy, and you have to deal with it here first before it can be cleared from the area. So sometimes whenever that happens, it's actually pulling up negative energy from you, and you are becoming a magnet for it and amplifying that energy. But if you practice what I talked about before, releasing fear and moving in love, you're going to kind of negate that happening, okay? And a lot of the times people are afraid and say, well, what if I sage and I start seeing things and I start seeing spirits, or I start, having activity or things happening? Probably those were already happening, and now you are just noticing them because you are opening up to your gifts. We are all psychic, we are all gifted, and so we all have the ability to see these things happening. As you begin to sage and as you start taking control of your environment, what does that mean? you become more aware of what is happening in your life. And so that's important to remember, that as you open up to this, it opens up to you as well and really lets you know what was going on. Because before, you were kind of just lackadaisically walking through life, using this space without talking to people. And sometimes those entities were there before you were. So it is essential to create a working relationship with these spirits. There's a reason our ancestors gave offerings and sacrifices to these spirits, because they knew they needed to work harmoniously. So you may think you're dealing with a disembodied demon, but in reality, you're just dealing with the guardian of that area, of your area. And he was there before you and will continue to be there before you, or she. So you need to make kind of a relationship with that spirit. Begin researching the area, begin researching what's going on in your city or town, or if there's a specific Native American tradition or things like that. There are actually entities that existed before we did. And it's really funny that we think we're the only one. Easy way to do that is leave offerings. Traditional ones are milk and honey, or tobacco and honey, or whatever. Just make sure that you do a lot of research before you start making offerings, because you don't want to make these entities even matter. Sometimes the best thing to do is fresh flowers, especially with spring going on right now. Pick some daffodils or some roses or some jonquils or azaleas or whatever you need to do, and just pluck it and leave it on your front porch or something, and say, to the good spirits that are protecting and being with me, this is a thank you. For the negative spirits that are attacking me or trying to work against me, please take this as atonement for any wrong that I may have done to you, either intentionally or unintentionally. And normally, this will solve the problem. All they want is attention. All they want is, think about it, it's a lower vibration. So they act very similar to children. It's a very simple thought. It's a very simple thought process. It's not a lot of things going on. And they were created to be a guardian, or created to be a watcher of this area. So your job is just to say thank you, and thank you for being there, and even ask them if they would like to, if they can help protect your home, or think of them as a guard dog. They can do that for you. So it's really incredible what you encounter whenever you start doing saging, and you really start digging deep into what is happening in your home and in your community that you never realized. So keep an open mind, and remember, operate out of what? Love, not fear, correct? And continue to do these steps. Continue to open up and continue to grow. If you run into something you don't understand or makes you feel uncomfortable, ask questions. It is okay to ask questions. You don't have to be alone in this. None of us are alone. We're all connected. So if one of us has an idea or knows something about this, talk to them about it. Ask questions, and you might find the answer. That's one of the big things about this channel, is seek and you will find. Now keep in mind, all of these viewpoints are mine, and things that I have personally researched, things that I have ran into, and things that work for me. Now, if they don't work for you, then keep trying it. Find different ways. Study, read, pick up a book about smudging and saging, and do your research. I promise you'll find someone who does it perfectly in line for you. Spirits and all kinds of other fun things. If you have anything to add to this discussion, please, by all means, comment below and we'll open up a dialogue. Remember, as you raise your vibe, you heal the tribe. Bye, guys.